Hello, and welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Sunday, December 22nd. It is episode 43 of the Inside the Huddle podcast. Make sure to please like and subscribe. Appreciate all your support. As always, we have made it to week 16. Already 3 games this week in the books. Thursday night, Broncos, Chargers, and then 2 games yesterday, Chiefs, Texans, and a good old AFC North showdown between the Ravens and the Steelers. So big slate today coming up, and then again Monday night tomorrow to really kind of put week 16 into full swing here. It's crazy. We've already made it to week 16. Only 3 weeks left, including today. After today, only 2 weeks left. A lot of football coming up. You got Christmas Day games. You got Thursday night game. Then you got more Saturday games next week. So almost every day here for the next couple weeks, we've got football on the TV. So lots to discuss tomorrow. How's it going, man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. Like you said, we have a pretty important slate of football. The last 3 games we just had between yesterday and Thursday, all potential playoff matchups, if we're being honest. So those games definitely meant a lot for yesterday. And, we got some teams today with some fairly easy teams that they have up on the schedule here, but still important football. You don't want to drop a game, especially against an opponent that you should absolutely blow out and kind of stay on track. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I feel like last week after we had 2 potential Super Bowl previews, this week is a little bit, at least this Sunday slate, a little bit different in terms of there's a lot of, uneven games. Like you got the Bears and the Lions, you got Bills, Patriots, and then you've got some games that just, don't mean a whole lot, like the Titans and the Colts. I know the Colts still mathematically are in it, but let's be honest, they're not going to make it. Obviously the Jets, Rams. Jets are, of course, a lost cause at this point. Tomorrow night, Packers, Saints. I don't think you expect much with Spencer Rattler out there in Lambeau. So little bit, I guess a step down from where we were last week. But I will say this: there still are a couple really good games on today. Of course, the Atlanta game, even though it's the 2-12 Giants, it's something to watch for with Michael Penix, which we'll get to. Seattle, Minnesota is going to be a really good game, even with the health of Geno Smith. So still some good games on the slate. Of course, Washington, Philly as well. It's probably one of the biggest ones of the day. But we could start with what took place yesterday. 2 games yesterday. Really a ton of football yesterday. You had college football on. You had NFL on. I'll just say this. The first round of the college football playoff was awful, I think, to put it simply. And I guess we could maybe just for a minute here. SMU and Indiana, in my opinion, did not belong in the playoffs. After watching yesterday, you can make the case, right? Indiana's 11-1. Obviously, SMU first year in the ACC was very good. Almost won the ACC championship. I know you can look at an Alabama 3-loss team. You look at the way things ended with Miami losing to Syracuse. Defense wasn't playing well. But I still believe if you put either Miami or Alabama in it over those 2 teams, or even just over one of those teams, we would have got a lot. Like, I think Alabama would have had a better chance of going on the road and beating Notre Dame or Penn State, or same thing with Miami. Would you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, to your case of SMU, that was a little tricky for me just because, like you said, first year in the ACC, they
Yeah.
beat some really good teams. Clemson came down to the wire. They beat
Yeah.
Louisville earlier when Louisville was hot. It was like, I can understand why SMU kind of made it. But then you look at Indiana, and you're like, the one time that I can remember they played a top 10 team, they went into Ohio State and like
Yeah.
completely
And
got
they
the,
got
the
blown out.
doors blown out.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean,
And that's what
I
I was
guess.
saying. That's what I've been saying is like the one really good team they played was Ohio State. They got crushed. Their other wins were, like beating, I think, Purdue 66-0 or whatever it was, 1-11 Purdue, beating all these meh teams in the Big Ten. They got smoked against Ohio State on the road. And then we're going to expect them to go on the road at Notre Dame and win a game in the college football playoff. No way. So I don't want to be complaining too much because we all wanted this college football playoff format, at least most did. And here we are. I mean, I guess, you can't be perfect, but, um, I think I would take my chances with Jalen Milroe against Penn State than Kevin Jennings. If that, I think that's the best way to put it, right?
And Kevin Jennings also had, yesterday at the point of that game, Penn State's defense was up 14-0. Like their offense didn't even
Yeah,
score. Drew Aller was definitely gifted,
yeah,
the defense gifted the holiday spirit because 14-0 off of 2 pick sixes. He didn't have to do much, and SMU really struggled. And kind of telling this guy this, a few weeks ago, it's kind of tough when you take a school like SMU that's, not really have been a real group
yeah,
of 5 team, and then you send them on the road to Happy Valley. That's tough. But again, like you just said, this is the format that we all wanted. But I do agree, Miami or Bama or even throw my Gators up in there probably would have had a better shot than
yeah,
what we watched yesterday. But second round should be a lot better looking at these matchups besides Texas, Arizona State. I feel might not be that good of a
yeah,
game, but
yeah.
we'll see.
Early in the Clemson game, it looked good. And
Yeah,
obviously Clemson winning the ACC, they're an automatic bid, so I'm not complaining about that. But and Cade Klubnik's been solid here down the stretch, but it looked good early on, and then it got out of hand there
yeah.
late. So anyway, that's the college football slate. Let's move on to the NFL here. We'll start with the first game of the day. That was the Texans and the Chiefs. Obviously, I think you really can't go without talking about this game or go talking about this game without the Tank Dell injury. Just another brutal injury. He was hurt last year, missed the majority of last season's campaign after having a monster rookie season up to that point with the broken tibia. This year, it's crazy that he even caught that ball, that he stayed with that catch, but just looks like an awful knee injury. I think everybody had by now seen the video. We don't have to break it down here what happened. But you feel for Tank Dell, and not only just from that part of it, but there is the whole team element of it where the Texans were not the same team at all. This was a close game. This was a competitive game. Tank Dell scores to make it 17-16. They missed the extra point, but at that point in the game, they're in it. And then once Tank Dell left that game, that was the end of it for the Chiefs. Really, that was the end of, or the Texans rather. Offensive line was terrible. CJ Stroud felt like just couldn't find anybody open. Didn't have a ton of time. So what is your thoughts on what you saw from the Texans yesterday, especially post Tank Dell injury, where they were a completely different team the rest of that third quarter and, of course, into the fourth?
I'm going to roll with exactly what you said off air and I agree with. I think this team is a wild card
Yeah.
exit.
Yeah.
It's just the
100%.
drop off from, just out of Stroud, but just, Houston to start the year and kind of now. Just you're starting to see drop off with Stroud. Joe Mixon's not looking great either. Like they're not getting Joe Mixon as involved. The season, when it first started, he's touching the ball 20, 24, 25 times, rushing attempts alone. And then you throw in his ability as a pass catcher. So Joe Mixon's looking at, 30 plus touches a game, and now it's like they kind of got away with it. They went super pass heavy. Stroud is throwing the ball now 30 plus times a game. Like we really weren't seeing that from Houston early on. It was a lot of success on the ground, throw the ball when we have to, take the deep shots downfield because the run game is working so well. And again, a lot of that had to do with Diggs playing and Tank Dell playing, and now those two gone, the offense does kind of change. But they're a really hard team to read. They are so confusing to the sense of you got a game where their offense looks amazing. And I can think of Jacksonville the first time, for instance, my example of this. The offense looks amazing, but the defense looks terrible. So, they got to go out there and they got to score 50 for them to win. And then you have games like yesterday and the Chiefs offense has not been that good, but, still hold this Chiefs team to 24 points, I believe it was, on the road. That's you deserve some credit for that. So you have games where you hold the defense or the offense under 30, but your offense can't score. Injury was part of it, but Stroud did have 2 costly interceptions. So we were saying off air, we're looking at the standings right now. Baltimore sits at 5 spot. If the season ended, Baltimore was in Houston. I don't think Houston, gets past that. And I hate to say it because, again, there's been injuries, but it's kind of looking like this season was a bust because it's how good they looked last year. Me and you were on the Houston hype train. I know a lot of other people are on the Houston hype train coming into the season, and now they're looking like a team who statistically could still lose the division, if Anthony Richardson and the coach figure it out. So kind of feel for Houston is one of them years with all the injuries. But I mean, at the end of the day, I guess it's next man up mentality. But I just don't see this as a team that's going far.
Yeah, and it's just unfortunate because of all the injuries. Like, I do believe, I don't know, it's kind of split 50-50 where I stand with this Texans team. Part of me is like, we can all agree CJ Stroud has regressed since last year. But how much of that is the fact that he's missed his top two options now, or will miss his top two options now with Tank Dell most likely missing the rest of the season? Obviously already lost Diggs, lost Tank Dell. The offensive line is terrible. It is horrendous. We've been talking about that for almost the entire season now, how bad it is. I don't remember last year us ever talking about how bad the offensive line was. Maybe we did. I just don't remember it, or it was just getting covered up because they were having, a lot of success and they were kind of the darling of the NFL last year. So it is definitely a year two drop off. Now it's not, they're still going to make the playoffs. They're still going to get a home playoff game, whoever that's against, whether that's the Ravens, heck, whether the Chargers jump up into that 5 spot. So it's not like they're 6-9 that we're talking about right now, a team really regressing, but it's rough, the injuries. And you mentioned the whole run game. Late in that game, they obviously couldn't run the ball a ton because they're down, but Stroud with that offensive line on the road, you do not want him throwing the ball 39 times. And maybe there is part of this too. And I like Stroud a lot as a player. And this is where I kind of said, like, it could be a little bit of everything. Part of it is he's not playing well. There's also a lot of part of it where there's injuries happening around him. The offensive line's a problem. That stuff's out of his control. But do you feel at all like Stroud maybe, I don't know. I don't know how to word this because I don't think he's like a cocky player at all, but like he went into the offseason, had all those interviews, was putting himself into the top 5. I don't know. You think you know what I'm saying? Like, you think he kind of was feeling himself a little bit in a way where, I don't know, this year's kind of been like a humbling experience, 19 touchdowns, 11 picks. We all expect him to be in the MVP conversation. He's far from that.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Like, it's hard to say cocky because there's a big difference.
No, he's not cocky. Yeah, it's
cocky and confident, but
he's not like, I don't know what the word is, and I don't even know if I fully believe this. I'm just putting it out there just for the sake of the conversation. But you kind of wonder if this Texans team as a whole, right? All the hype, all the eyes were on them last year. All the eyes were on them again this year. You added Stephon Diggs. You were getting Tank Bell back. You got Nico Collins already. You added Joe Mixon. Like, here we go. One of the most talented rosters on paper going into the season. And then here we are, 9-6. Yeah, you've got the division locked up, but you're also playing in one of the weakest divisions in football with Will Levis, whatever the heck the Colts are doing with Richardson and Flacco, and the Jaguars, who are a dumpster fire themselves. So,
And the thing with that, like, one of my dad's favorite things to say is, when a new quarterback steps in, and we might see it with Penix today. When a new quarterback steps in, it's so hard to game plan for him because you don't have enough film on him. So even through last year, you're watching 17 games of Stroud, and you're just like, at what point is there enough film? And it's not really enough film because you can get to week 15 and you're just like, okay, that might just be a rookie mistake. That's a rookie mistake. That's a rookie mistake. Year 2, okay, now that's a tendency. We see things differently now because what we're seeing from all the tape off of year 1, we're seeing it on week 2. Like, it's not rookie mistakes no more. Those are tendencies. Those are bad habits and those type of things. And I think that's kind of what happened. People figured out these bad habits with Stroud. They figured out, different coverages that he struggles against. And I know there's a few quarterbacks, I'm use Dak for example, where some people still like feels like he's not the best against the cover 2. So teams kind of pick up on some things where like he struggles with this. He in these situations, this is kind of what he's going to do, and it's all on film now. People pick up, and I think he just got figured out. Going into last year, you didn't know what to expect from the Houston team that was bottom of the barrel, new head coach. Nobody believed in Houston. You're just like, great. They got their guy, I guess. Let's go see how good he actually is. And he performed. Tank Dell, another one who had an absolute great year. Guy that you got in the 3rd round. You didn't expect him to blow up like that. But now teams know what Houston is going to bring. They are figured out. And even though this year, back to what I just said earlier, with them being figured out, they were running the ball so well. So they didn't have to, rely on Stroud to throw the ball so much so where teams could put him in uncomfortable situations where teams couldn't rush the passer as much because they're running the ball so well. But, these next few weeks and then going into the playoffs, especially with a team like you just said, I said Baltimore, you possibly said the Chargers, even Denver. We're talking about three teams with very good defenses that can make a quarterback's life very miserable. They have to figure it out. They got to establish something, whether that's Joe Mixon touches the ball 40 times or, one of the other guys steps up. But for Houston and CJ Stroud, cocky is kind of hard. And I know we're both not saying cocky, but I feel like that confidence kind of got in the way of that team a little bit. And now it's showing.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it is confidence. They were probably a little too confident this year. They heard the outside noise a little bit, and it's kind of, again, they're 9-6. They're going to make the playoffs, and who knows? Maybe they make a run. Maybe this is different where maybe they need to kind of feel doubted and then go out there and, I don't know, make a run. I don't think they'll win the Super Bowl. I think that's crazy, but maybe they, I don't know, go on a run for a week, win their home playoff game, similar to how they did last year in the wild card, and move on to the second round and then run into just a more inferior opponent. But yeah, I agree with the whole Stroud thing. Like, teams are picking up on him. I also think teams have clearly found a weakness in this offensive line that they can exploit because it's been awful. Week in and week out, he's running for his life, which isn't his fault. That's just on the O-line. And without Tank Dell, without Diggs, you're down two of your top three receivers. It's going to be, those guys getting open a lot quicker, those guys finding separation a lot easier. Now you're down to your depth guys, which you can't always, I think, have faith to get open quickly where the offensive line isn't really much of a factor. You're down to your Robert Woods and Xavier Hutchinson's now of the world, with Dell and Diggs already out. Now, Dalton Schultz will be a big factor here moving forward. Of course, Nico Collins. Those two guys will need to have huge, seasons to close things out. Nico Collins has been very good this year. He's on his way to 1,000 yards. Schultz as well. A little bit of a regression this year for him, but if there was a time for him to pick it up, it would be these upcoming weeks. So that's the Texans angle. Definitely rough way to, have things kind of go down yesterday with the injury. Felt like if that injury doesn't happen, they probably win. Now you move to the Chiefs side of things. I mean, voodoo magic. They just keep finding ways to win. 14-1 on the season. All they need now is a win over the next two games or a Buffalo loss to clinch the AFC. So that means all games the AFC will run through Arrowhead. There's not much more to say. They keep finding ways to win. They're the Kansas City Chiefs. They've won 3 Super Bowls. They're going for a three-peat. I mean, they've won back-to-back. Until somebody dethrones them, it's just going to be kind of the same result, I guess.
And, yesterday, NFL Countdown were breaking down the, percentages between Buffalo and Kansas City. I hate to say it, getting the 1 seed. I hate to say it, Kansas City's going to clinch it. Buffalo needed Kansas City to lose 2 of their next 3. Buffalo has to win out, which I believe they can do, but it's Kansas City losing 2 of their next 2. They got to just lose out. I just don't see it happening, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick and tired of it. They didn't look great yesterday, and I mean, they did get Hollywood Brown back, and I know Hollywood Brown did make that offense look completely different, but it's just at what point, it's so I'm gonna contradict myself because it's like the angle I look at it is just like, they're not that good. All these games are 1 scores, and they've been saved in a lot of these 1-score games. And then the other side of it, the realistic side of it, the truthful side of it is like these 1-score games are the ones that you need the most. These are the ones that you're going to win in the postseason. The nitty gritty, hey, adversity, everything's kind of against us, or we have a few things against us. How can we pull out a win in a close game? And they continue to do it. Again, now back to my fan side of it, I feel like a lot of it is to do with the refs. And hey, it is what it is. I think all of America, besides Kansas City fans thinks it all has to do with the refs,
Yeah.
but they're gonna get eliminated. I don't know who. We think it's Buffalo. They're going to get
Yeah.
eliminated. They are going to run into that one team that just finds a way to do it and just does it better than them. And what I mean by that is, all this Mahomes magic and all this foolishness that we're seeing every Sunday, it's going to be someone out there that's putting it into it. I just don't think Kansas City goes back to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a team to do it, I think it's got to be Buffalo. They've already beat them in the regular season. I mean, look, that happens almost every year. They have a lot of success against them in the regular season, and the postseason comes around, and the Bills just, I guess, bill in a way. Yeah, if there was a year, and I feel like we said this last year too, just because of the way the Bills had home field, the Chiefs, like record-wise, actually struggled in the regular season last year. This year, while they're not playing the best football, they're 14-1, and that can't be denied. Even though it's a every single game's close, barely beating the Raiders 14-1, but 14-1 is 14-1. I think they said yesterday on the broadcast they've had 16 straight one-score games, I think, something like that, which is just
16
crazy. Yeah, so that's every single game this year plus whatever. I think the Super Bowl, I guess, last year, if they're counting that. So it's just, it has to be Buffalo. I mean, let's just take a look at the AFC right now, right? I mean, and I know we'll get into Pittsburgh here in a second, and I guess this can sort of be like a segue into that. But like, you have Kansas City as the 1 seed. Okay, we both believe Buffalo can do it. 3 seed Pittsburgh, they look like they are frauds right now. I think that's the best way to put it. They do. Houston, we just got done talking about them. Don't love them. Baltimore could be a threat. Derrick Henry, I think, at any time this postseason, if he has a big game, I don't see any team stopping him. So Baltimore, I would maybe throw into that window with Buffalo, or maybe a tier below Buffalo. And then you get into the Chargers, which, I mean, I guess it wouldn't be crazy. I mean, I don't know. I don't think the Chargers are going to go into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs, but I mean, then again, it is Harbaugh. I guess anything's possible. And then you've got Denver as that 7 seed, which they did almost beat the Chiefs in the regular season, but Bo Nix playoff game, I don't think we can count on Denver. So you're really looking at probably Buffalo and Baltimore, right? Is the realistic 2?
And honestly, I think I'm gonna go Chargers train there too. Yeah. I think they can figure it out. I mean, it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I think Chargers can pull it off.
Yeah, you do make a good point. Yeah, I think Chargers. Yeah. Harbaugh's a guy that I would trust on the road, definitely in that situation. Chargers have been in a heck of a story this year. I did not see this coming from them at all. At all, I did not see this.
We've spent a lot of the offseason talking about how this division is not even talk about.
It's crazy.
And everyone is good. I know the Raiders record says what it says, but they've been competitive.
They are competitive, yes.
Good division.
Yeah. And that's the crazy part, though, is it's a really good division, yet somehow it's not really competitive still, because they've got a 5-game lead on LA and Denver. So it's like, even though it's a really good division, it's not competitive because you got 14-1 team leading the way.
Yeah.
So, and hey, look, Denver, they got them again at home last week of the season. And Denver, if it wasn't for the voodoo magic coming out and then blocking the field goal, which never happens. Like, how does that never happens? Chiefs up, gonna lose. Nope, let's just block the field goal. Crazy.
I can't remember the last time I've seen like a blocked field goal for a win in the NFL, and the Chiefs pulled it off. So
the only one I can remember was like a while back. I don't know when it was. It might have been like 2016 or something. The Ravens-Browns Monday night game. Ravens blocked the field goal and took it back to the house. I don't know when that was. That was still when like Sean McDonough and then we're doing the ESPN broadcast. That was like, jeez. It had the old score bug on the screen too. That was at least 8 years ago.
That was a long time ago.
Yeah. But that was like the only one I could think of. Either way. Chiefs find another way to win. And I'll say this too. Kareem Hunt, what a year it's been for him. Pacheco's back and you don't even really notice him. And as a Isaiah Pacheco fantasy owner, I was fired up when he came back. Now I haven't put him in my lineup since, but he's really been a non-factor. Now, part of that could be a positive and a negative. Like maybe they're just kind of easing him into things and then they let him break out in the playoffs. Part of it could be Kareem Hunt's playing well, but they're doing this without Pacheco being much of a factor, which he was a huge piece of that team last year. So that's something to look for down the stretch here. And even just going into the postseasons, like how much does Pacheco actually impact the game moving forward once the playoffs begin? So anyway, let's move on to the Steelers game. Ravens Steelers. I mean, Russ is playing well all year. 2 killer mistakes yesterday. Fumbles the ball inside the red zone on a run play that he should have just slid. And then the pick 6 to Marlon Humphrey to basically seal the game. I mean, it's just they were in it. They had it. It was 17-17. And then Ravens come alive, pick 6, and they score 17 unanswered, and there's no looking back. So Steelers go from 10-3, big matchup against the Eagles, big matchup against the Ravens, thinking, man, they can potentially really put themselves near the top of the NFL. And now they come out of these 2 games with 2 really poor losses, both without George Pickens. And now you look at the Steelers from a division perspective, it doesn't get any easier. You've got the Chiefs coming up on a short week, Christmas Day, and then you've got the Bengals to close out the season, which, by the way, the Bengals could be playing for their playoff lives in that game if some things break their way. So it'll be interesting to see how this all ends up playing out. But the Steelers went from looking like maybe one of the top teams in the AFC to maybe a possible fraud. Are we calling them frauds yet?
I know I said it off air. I'm going to take it back. I'm not going to go with the fraud direction yet. Again, I didn't watch too much of the game, but after we kind of did the breakdown of what happened when you were explaining, a pick 6, we're talking 17-27. And I don't know if Baltimore, after Russ fumbled in the red zone, but after I did see the clip of that, just doing way too much. Russ, just go ahead and slide and get down. You're not in Seattle. I don't think even in Seattle you were trying to break tackles and get into the end zone, especially when you're 10 yards out. Just go down, live another down. I don't know if Baltimore went down the field and scored after that, but 2 costly turnovers on the road. Yeah, of course those are going to kill you. And I don't want to say frauds because, we've seen them the first time they played Baltimore, they really were, gritty and pulled that win out. You see them in Cincinnati where, you go score 44 points. They haven't scored 40 points in like 6 years or whatever the case was.
Yeah.
I don't want to say fraud, but what I am going to say is these are the games that when me and you were talking about Pittsburgh all year, like how good are they actually? Okay, they're going to beat up on the bad teams. How are they going to look in division play? How are they going to look against playoff teams? How are they going to look against Super Bowl caliber teams?
Yeah.
And they've been good. I mean, I know, again, Cincinnati I'm going to use. I know Cincinnati's record says different, but I mean, they got the best 1-2 punch quarterback wide receiver duo in all of football. Their defense just can't stop a nosebleed. So, they look good against Cincinnati. They look good against Baltimore the first time they played them. They have looked good. I think yesterday just some unfortunate things didn't go their way, kind of short week type of thing. Maybe not all the way focused, probably looking ahead for whatever reason. Eyeing the standings kind of like, hey, we kind of gotta figure it out. After Baltimore, we got this and that, and not focusing on the game in the moment. So I'm not going to say frauds quite yet, but with how they performed yesterday, I don't see them beating anybody in the playoffs in the first round.
Yeah. No, yeah, Russ has got to be better. Russ is the biggest takeaway for me, and kind of what you said, they're like, Russ has got to be significantly better for them if they want to go anywhere this season. And we've known that now for a while, that like this team, if they wanted to go anywhere, they need to upgrade their quarterback position somehow, some way. And Russ looked like that upgrade. He looked like that guy, but last week he didn't really play that bad. It was just, he didn't have any turnovers. It's just like without Pickens, They couldn't really get anything going. This week, it was different. The fumble, the pick, 2 killer mistakes. I mean, the fumble, I think, was maybe even the pick was costly, but the fumble just changed the whole trajectory of that game. You just got to slide. I don't get some of these quarterbacks not sliding. Just go down and slide. It's so stupid. And I'm surprised he didn't get hurt. I mean, he got cracked on that play.
He got helicoptered. I mean, that's the way to put it. But it's the Josh Allen effect. That's the way I'm gonna say it. Josh Allen's dropping his shoulder, hurdling, running through everybody. Everyone wants to be Josh Allen. Like, you're not 6'5", 240. Maybe that's the difference.
He's
5'11",
206.
Like, just get down and just live another down. That's it.
And even Josh Allen too. There's a point when it gets to Allen where you start to get worried if he's going to get hurt one of these times because he plays like he's a linebacker. He's built like a linebacker. But yeah, Russ has got to be better. Big couple games coming up. If they can find a way to beat the Chiefs, that'd be huge. Obviously, I think that kind of really potentially changed the narrative on this team. But yeah, I mean, I think Pickens, and maybe that is part of it too, where you don't want to panic. Like, they're without George Pickens. That clearly makes the receiving game change. So you get Pickens back. Does that kind of get this team back into a rhythm? We'll see. And then from the Ravens' perspective, if you can't stop Derrick Henry, I don't think you can stop this Ravens team. I mean, 162 yards yesterday, just pure dominance. And in Lamar, another big day as well, 3 touchdowns. I guess, right? We talked about it, ranking them. You probably go Buffalo, Baltimore as the top 2 to dethrone Kansas City.
Absolutely.
I agree.
My only thing with Baltimore when it comes to when they play Kansas City, if they match up, Kansas City's run defense is exceptional.
Yeah.
So it's going to be, and it's not a knock at Lamar, but in the playoffs, we've seen where Lamar has to play Lamar ball, and teams force him into not great games. So if they go up against Kansas City, Lamar can't throw the ball. Which Lamar Jackson are we going to get? But definitely, Buffalo, Baltimore as the top 2 to dethrone Kansas City. And I mean, depending on how Pittsburgh looks against Kansas City coming up, Pittsburgh might be in that mix too with George Pickens playing, of course.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And the biggest thing for all these teams is they will all have to go into Arrowhead. So you start, you wonder which out of these teams, which do you feel can handle the road environment the best? And that's where I do feel like Baltimore could have an advantage over any of the other teams. And I know James Cook and Buffalo's obviously had a big year, but like if there was a way to go into Arrowhead and win, if you can just ground and pound the whole game and kind of just take the life out of that defense, wear that defense down, it would be the Ravens with Henry and even Lamar using his legs that time as well. I mean, they were a Isaiah Likely, foot or I don't know, smaller foot size
half
away.
Shoe size away from a win.
Exactly. Yeah. So they could definitely possibly do it for sure. Now, got any other thoughts on these 2 games?
I want to go another side of Houston. I kind of wanted to add in. We were talking about injuries, and it actually ties into Houston and Baltimore. I mean, it ties into Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Tank Dell is now out. Stephon Diggs been out for a while. Again, like, are you trusting Xavier Hutchinson? Are you trusting Robert Woods and John Mechie, kind of going into the playoffs? Do you get Deontay Johnson, who is an absolute cancer from what we can tell? Do you get Deontay Johnson on a rental if you're Houston and hope to make something shake?
He's a mess. He's a mess. I mean, I don't know what it is with him. Like, just go play football. I don't get with these guys. You got traded. You went from the Panthers to Baltimore. You should be happy about that. Like, just go out there and play. I don't get his. I wouldn't. I would stay far away from him.
Interesting. Just kind of thinking if teams are going to start doubling Nico Collins and finding ways to take Nico Collins out of the way. And so, unless if you are a big believer of like, hey, we like our guys, do you try to go out and get them? But I think with the chemistry, with the direction of the team and everything, guys are distraught through injuries. You don't bring a guy like that in the locker room. Absolutely not.
Yeah. No, yeah, I agree. I mean, essentially, and this wouldn't be an exact one-on-one replacement, but essentially you'd be going like Tank Dell's gone. Okay, so to replace him, we're just going to bring in Deontay Johnson. And I think a lot of guys in that room like Tank Dell a lot. Not that like means a whole lot, but just from the outside, it's kind of like a bad look. You're basically going Tank Dell turning into, I don't know, Deontay Johnson, man. I don't know. I some of these guys, it's just ridiculous. It's just like enough of the complaining. Just go out there and play. You're on a winning team. We were talking about it last week with the whole AJ Brown stuff. And then guess what? Look, AJ Brown and the Eagles offense had a big day passing. Like, that's why it's why I hate Philly so much, because all these fans are like, oh, the passing game stinks. Oh, wow. Oh, we're 12-2. Oh man, this sucks. Fire Sirianni. Give me a break. You're 12-2. I've got my owner declining trades because of Madden ratings. Please. I would love to have your problems right now. I mean, good Lord. Some of these people out there, some of these just players are just ridiculous. Sorry, I just went on a rant there for a second.
Well, I guess that sets us up for next segment.
Yeah. No,
Right
it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, some of these. So another bombshell report. So the Jets this season have now had, let's break down some of the numbers here. They have now had two firings. They've had their head coach, Robert Saleh, get fired, general manager get fired. They've had two bombshell reports come out from The Athletic, and they've got 4 wins. So they've got the same amount of firings and bombshell reports as they do wins this year. So you really put that into perspective. That's really that's a successful season that's setting you up for some good playoff success here in January. And when I mean playoff success, I mean, of course, Cancun playoffs, as we all know. Or Rodgers going to, like, I don't know, Costa Rica to do ayahuasca. That's, something else that we could potentially see. Just curious, have you watched the Rodgers doc yet?
I don't even think he needs a doc, but I've seen a clip of him talking about, was it feeling or being like a butterfly or a caterpillar or something?
Oh yeah.
And then that just 1,000% confirmed this guy sits in a dark room.
Yeah.
Taking something that's not illegal in the US. Cause yeah.
Yeah, I've actually watched the first 2 episodes. There's 3. I've got one more episode to watch. It's actually a lot better than I thought. It's just interesting. He's really weird. He's so strange. Like he does, he's just so, like, even sometimes the way he like talks through things, I don't want to say it's like dumb, but it makes you think. Like he's very, like, I don't know. He's an odd guy. And I've always said that with Rodgers, his act is all cool and all when he's winning, but when he's losing, his act kind of gets old really fast. The whole darkness retreat, the whole ayahuasca retreat, going to Egypt, all that nonsense, like all the off the field stuff, even the documentary, that's all cool and all. At the beginning of the season, when I heard that this documentary was going to come out in December, I literally was like, man, this is either going to be really good or really bad, because it's going to come out and the Jets are going to be like 10-4 about to win a division, or it's going to come out and they're going to be terrible and it's going to be the worst timing possible. And of course, because it's the Jets, it comes out when they're 4-10, the worst timing possible. Although it is coming off of a big win against the Jaguars, of course, where they barely beat Mac Jones.
Big win.
Big win. Huge win. Monstrous win. We're back.
That game stressed me out. It took it took a Devontae Adams masterclass.
Yep.
And it took Garrett Wilson not playing football for 3 quarters. I don't know. Team's a mess.
I will say this. As bad as the season has been, and as much as the tank and stuff like that is probably better for the organization moving forward, when Rodgers and putting all bias aside, like whether it's your Jets fans biased, although I don't think any Jet fan really is biased for Rodgers. I think a lot of them want him gone, like myself. But putting all like fandom aside, bias aside, hate Rodgers, love Rodgers, Devontae, all that. Those two guys, when they're like on, they're special. They're a lot of fun to watch. Like seeing that vintage game, even though it was they're, against the Jaguars, and I get all that in December, meaningless game. I understand all that, believe me. But just getting to sit there and watch that game, at least it was entertaining. And that's all I can ask for at this point in the season is these games to be entertaining. The worst part about being in meaningless football is when the games are like 13-6 and they're just grueling. At least if they're going to lose, at least make it competitive, or if they're going to win, at least put up 30 plus points and make it impressive. Not one of these 10-7 wins where you're barely getting past Mac Jones and the Jaguars. So I will say that. But anyway, the whole Woody Johnson thing is ridiculous. The meddling is crazy. This report comes out, and believe me, I said this on my podcast this week when I uploaded after this report came out. Like, there's part of it where I do feel maybe some of this in this report is maybe some of it might not be true. There might be some of it in this report that is maybe in a way like taken out of context where it's partially true, but then the Athletic kind of exaggerated it. And maybe that's this whole Madden rating thing, right? You have heard some reports that Woody brought up Madden ratings in meetings, but that's not the reason why the trade got nixed. Some reporters have said that the reason the trade between them and the Broncos didn't happen is because the Broncos didn't want to take on Lazard's salary and wanted just draft picks instead. Who knows? Either way, though, Madden ratings have been brought up. We've got some inside information about the locker room. We got some media stuff coming out about how much he is involved in like Twitter and looking at Jets fans' posts and all that nonsense. It is such a dumpster fire. This team, this guy is got to be, in my opinion, the worst owner right now in the NFL. He's got to be. He does not let football people make their decisions. Now, he was doing it. He was letting Douglas and them because he was overseas as an ambassador in the UK for the first part of their tenure. But now he's using Madden ratings. He's going into meetings and recommending to bringing up to bench Rodgers. I mean, it's ridiculous on so many levels. You hear some of these locker room things, like literally the Jets right now are run by a 17-year-old. Brick Johnson, his son, is literally running the Jets. Literally. Brick Johnson, it said in the post or said in the thing that he would share different social media posts to Woody about the team, about what the team should do. And then the team or Woody would then bring them up in meetings. And Joe Douglas even had a quote in this that said, quote, "I answer to a teenager." I mean, that's all you need to know about the state of this franchise. And I guess we could start with the Madden ratings because that was the big headline thing. The fact that you're even bringing up Madden ratings is ridiculous. And again, and I said this too, no matter whether or not you fully believe everything that was said in this article, whether or not you don't, the fact that these articles are still coming out and we're on a 14-year playoff drought, the team's a disaster. That's all you need to know about this organization. The fact that these reports are even coming out right now, whether or not they're true or not, it just shows you how much of like a country club environment One Jets Drive is. There's no accountability. There's no urgency. There's no leadership. It's a rudderless ship led by an incompetent owner that has worked for nothing in his life, by the way. He just entered into a family that was super rich and now decided to say, oh, I want to own a football team. And he's had no success with that football team. And again, it's like these type of articles that come out that show you why the Jets need somebody proven to come in here to clean up this mess, not take any of Woody's nonsense, say, I'm going to run this thing my way. You're not getting in the way. If you're going to meddle, I'm not going to come here. And that's something else Woody needs to do. Like interviewing these candidates, he needs to tell them, look, like this needs to hopefully be a come to earth moment for Woody Johnson that says, I got to stop meddling. This is rock bottom. My team's 4-10. I went all in for a Hall of Fame quarterback and it's blown up in my face. I mean, he's got more documentaries as a Jet than he does playoff games. Like that has got to be rock bottom now. This has got to be rock bottom where you go out and hire Mike Vrabel, somebody like that. So that's it's just it's so pathetic. I despise Woody Johnson with a passion, and I wish he would sell the team, but it will never happen because as long as money is going into his pockets, he couldn't care less about the fans. He couldn't care less about the results. All he cares about is money, raising season ticket prices. That's all he cares about. And unfortunately, people are still going to pay for season tickets. So that's it. There's going to be people out there at the game today. I mean, I think the best way to make a statement is to not go to games. Not going to tell people how to be a fan, but if you gave me free tickets right now, there's no way I'm sitting in a 25-degree weather to watch a 4-10 Jets team get manhandled by Sean McVay and the red hot Rams. So what are your thoughts on this? Sorry, I took about 5 minutes there, but I had to vent.
No, I get it. I mean, somewhat in the same boat over there in Dallas, just a lot of different aspects going to it. Jerry isn't answering to a 17-year-old, but some similarities there. But it's just a guy with a lot of money who doesn't know ball. Nope. And it's as simple as that. And I mean, I think you were spot on in everything you said. You know, we bring in a guy in Rodgers who is supposed to kind of change the culture, whether that's for 4 years, whether that's for 2 years, whatever it is. And he's not doing that. We're not getting the results. You know, yeah, you got more documentaries, like you said, than playoff appearances and playoff wins with Aaron Rodgers. We're not trading for guys because of their Madden ratings. I know Woody Johnson isn't in on meetings, but you know, just say if it was a trickle down to the coaches, can you imagine Ulbrich in a meeting whiteboard? You know, guys, we're not watching film today. This is Mac Jones, 71 overall, 58 speed, so we don't got to worry about him escaping the pocket. Like it's ridiculous. You know, we're listening to a 17-year-old on how to run an NFL team.
Johnson.
An NFL team, like one of the teams with a very prestigious history, you know, back to the name of days and those type of things, like an NFL team that has really been one of a world-class organization up until like the last 14 years. But, you know, rich history, and we're listening to a 17-year-old tell us who we should and shouldn't pick up, trade for off of Madden ratings. It's insane. And go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry. And just with the Madden ratings thing too, that wasn't the only thing. The John Simpson, who they signed for left guard, and thank goodness they did, because he's been excellent this year. Woody Johnson supposedly, Brick Johnson and Woody supposedly told Douglas not to sign him because he had a low awareness rating in Madden. That's ridiculous. Now they did end up signing him. So I guess there is part of that where it's like Woody, I guess, gave his input and then said, look, ultimately you make the decision. But the fact that Madden is even being brought up, you realize how many every year people complain about Madden ratings. And here we have Woody Johnson using Madden ratings, or at least bringing them up. That's just the sad part. Whether or not they're nixing trades, whatever, the fact that he's even bringing up the word Madden ratings. Like, can you just imagine him going into Joe Douglas's office and saying, hey, man, Jerry Jeudy's got an 81 overall Madden rating. I don't like that. Let's not trade for him. And Mike Williams had an 87. So maybe their thing was, let's not, I'm just saying, 6 overall higher. Let's go get Mike Williams. He's not even on the team right now.
And, you know, I said it off air where it was like, you know, it ultimately landed Davante Adams instead of Jerry Jeudy. I think all 32 on the team would trade for Davante Adams over Jerry Jeudy. Even though this is going to sound crazy and sorry to, you know, offend anyone here, but you're kind of looking at their seasons, the two of them, and Jerry Jeudy's kind of having a better season than Davante Adams. So obviously, you know, the Madden ratings don't matter that much, but, you know, it's literally just, it's ridiculous. This is a team that has such high expectations, and just to see the fall off, like, a year, 2 years ago, we're talking about a defense that is so amazing, and just like they just need that to figure it out on offense. Now the defense goes into Jacksonville and let Mac Jones, who like prime Drew Brees for 3.5, almost 4 quarters of football. Again, it took a Rodgers and Davante Adams absolute masterclass to go beat a Jaguars team without their starting quarterback, a head coach that won't be there after this year, without their starting tight end, the worst defense statistically in football, not off of Madden, off of just ball knowledge, ESPN, just watching Jacksonville, the worst defense in football. And it took you 4 quarters of football and, 58 minutes to beat a Jacksonville team that you should have completely blown out the water. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. No.
Jets fans, for yourself, I feel so bad for you. I mean, I know I complain about Jerry Jones and how bad he is, and I wish he can sell the team, but I think I'm 1,000% with you. Woody Johnson is the worst owner in football, and this is what happens when you have a money-hungry guy who doesn't know ball and only cares about what goes into the pockets. This is the results that you're going to get. And until I'm going to put, I'm going to tie him and Jerry Jones into this one again. Until the two of them are no longer in control of that team, neither one of our organizations would do anything, because it's all about the green in the pockets and not what result is on the green, the green on the field, what goes on inside those white lines. Hey, my pockets are full. People are at the game. We're paying $20 for a beer and $18 for a hot dog. Who cares? We're 15-1. We're 1-15. People are going to show up. It's just that simple.
That's all that matters for these guys. They're a bunch of rich people that you said don't know ball. They think they know everything. They think they have all this control. They think they're so good. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous on so many levels. I'm just so sick of Woody. I'm so sick of his nonsense. Like, it's just so annoying. So and not even just like the Madden ratings, right? Some other things too in this article that came out, like after the Texans game, that Halloween game where they won, Brick Johnson, his son, came into the locker room. Rodgers was set up to give the ball to Jeff Ulbrich. He had a game ball to give to Jeff Ulbrich. Brick Johnson then ended up coming into the locker room and giving the ball to Garrett Wilson, like interrupted everybody, just said he gave the ball to Garrett Wilson because of his great catch. And then Rodgers never got to give the ball to Ulbrich, and said Woody did. And player described it as the most awkward, or one of the most awkward moments, or awkward locker room moments I've ever been a part of, or something like that. I don't have the quote right in front of me. I thought I wrote it down, but I didn't. So even the locker room stuff, like supposedly in this article as well, Brick and he has another son, Jack Johnson, 15. They have gone into the locker room. They go into the locker room after the games, and like in the other room, you can hear them talking crap about the players if they have a bad game, which is unacceptable. Like, that's not how you run a team. That's a terrible culture to set. And like the post-game locker room after an NFL game, win or loss, right after the game, you should not be in there. Like, that should be an opportunity for the guys to either enjoy the win or, kind of sit in there and I guess kind of just go about their business after a loss, get out of there, move on from it, try and move on from it, talk about it as a team, talk about it with the coaching staff. It should not be time for Brick and Jack Johnson, who even in the article they said have brought friends in the locker room after the game. Like, what? We're just going to have the locker room open now? Like, that annoys me. Like, that's unacceptable. That can't happen. And there was a video a couple weeks ago about them walking into the locker room, and the video has since been deleted after the Miami game. And then there was another thing in this article too that said, after the Seattle game in 2022, Mike White, who was playing with broken ribs, he slammed his helmet after the game because they lost, got eliminated from the playoffs. And Woody ended up saying to Mike White, "You should throw your helmet. You bleeping suck." And he later apologized. Like, you really think any player is going to want to come here and play in that environment when the owner is, especially Mike White too, fan base rallied around him? Like, that's got to stop. The media stuff's got to stop. You got to stop looking at social media about what people have to say and then bringing it up in meetings. I just think some of these quotes are telling. Like, a Jets executive said, "Unless we drastically alter our culture and the way we do things from top down, we have no chance. There's not a comfortable environment where you can speak your mind and try to address things that could improve the situation." A former Jets player said, "It's the most dysfunctional place imaginable." And this has got to be rock bottom. This has got to be where Woody Johnson says, "This is it. I'm hiring a Mike Vrabel. I'm hiring somebody like that, proven guy to come in here, make decisions, and I've got to step back." Almost like Leon Hess did with Bill Parcells back in 1997. So we'll see. We'll see. James Dolan all these years in this market was horrible. He finally stepped back, gave control to basketball people to make basketball decisions, right? Leon Rose and Tom Thibodeau. And look at where they're at now. They're one of the only good teams right now in New York. Right now, to the teams playing, they are the only good team. Because 2 hockey teams are terrible. The football teams are in their own category. So it's such a disaster. I'm so sick of Woody Johnson. I'm so sick of the Johnsons as a whole. They're a bunch of losers that just have a ton of money and think they know what they're doing. And I hope Woody Johnson knows nobody likes you, dude. Like, nobody likes you. I just hope he knows that. Like, there's not a single fan of the Jets that actually, it's just ridiculous. Nothing you're going to read on social media is going to be positive. That's all I'll say. So that's it. That's the Woody Johnson nonsense.
Oh, man.
All right, Michael Penix starting this week. Feels like this was needed to happen. Even though they won last week against the Raiders, it was another ugly game. They obviously lost 4 in a row before that. They were 6-3, then dropped to 6-7, found a way to get the win last week, 7-7. To close out the season here, they've got the Giants, the Commanders, and the Panthers. They got to win out, and they need some help to win the division. Division's still there. Bucks right now at 8-6, Falcons at 7-7. The Bucks the rest of the way have Dallas today, Sunday night, then Carolina, then New Orleans. So easier schedule there for them. Same thing for Atlanta, outside of Washington. But I agree with this move. I think it was the right move. We talked about this last week about the possibility of if things don't get better with Kirk, do they end up benching him? Sure enough, they do. Even though it was a win, it wasn't good enough. What are your thoughts on Penix getting a shot here?
Yeah, I think it's about time Arthur Smith made the move to Penix, because I guess Raheem Morris just transformed into Arthur Smith because he doesn't look any different. This team doesn't look any different with Smith last year to Raheem Morris this year. And I don't know. I don't know if it's Kirk. I don't know if it's the play calling. It's like you have the weapons. You made some big time moves in free agency. You traded for Judon, you get Jesse Bates, you get Justin Simmons. This was a team that's so stacked and so loaded on paper to the point they had me fooled. I thought they would go out there and win 11 or 12 games, but at this rate, I mean, Raheem Morris and the Falcons, it's like you have everything to lose and you have nothing to lose at the same time. Tampa schedule definitely goes in their way. Beat Dallas today, and you got 2 teams that you should run over, even though I know Carolina's playing a lot better. So
Yeah,
it almost in a way kind of feels like there's a gray area between we're just giving up on the season and we're just going to see what Penix can possibly give us for the future. And then there's let's see if he gives us a fighting chance, and let's say we can make a late push. You kind of don't know which direction they're in because they're not out of it. Even in the playoff race, they're not out of it if Washington kind of crumbles. So it's just been disappointing. I mean, all the money that you spent and you haven't gotten the results from it. And I mean, I guess we kind of looked at the draft day. You're just like, why would you go with Michael Penix with your 8th pick? Like, you needed Dallas Turner. Why didn't you go get him? Like, that, it makes no sense. That was stupid. And somebody, maybe good ownership that neither one of our teams know about, probably knew something we didn't. It was just like, if all goes wrong with Kirk, we need a backup that can be reliable. And they took Penix, and we're going to see today what he offers. And I mean, I think he gets a favorable matchup against a Giants team that defense hasn't been great. They haven't been bad either. They're one of those same categories. Houston, you kind of never know what their defense is going to give you. But Kirk's time in Atlanta is done. And I've seen a report, I think something along a certain amount of money they lose. I can't remember the number, so I don't want to just throw it out. But they're losing a good chunk of money if they cut him before March 17th, which I think they are going to do. So it was really a wasted experiment for Atlanta. And I mean, kind of sucked with all the talent they got. But Kirk. I think Kirk is done. I think career is over after this season.
Yeah, he's cooked. And I know maybe another year off the Achilles, people will try and argue that. I never understood that argument. Like even a lot of fans are saying that with Rodgers, oh, he'll have another year coming off the Achilles. To me, it's like he's another year older.
Yeah.
I don't really feel another year off of an Achilles injury is going to make you any better, especially Kirk in this case. Rodgers has looked a lot better than Kirk. Kirk is done. He's cooked. Maybe he goes to one other team. Maybe one other team does buy into that thing of, 1 year removed from 2 years now removed from the Achilles, give him another shot. But yeah, it feels weird. It feels like Atlanta right now is in this vicious cycle of they're the same team like every single year right now. They got the same, every year was the same thing under Arthur Smith. They were just like mid, and now they're mid again. But yeah, you got to give credit to the Falcons for drafting Michael Penix. I mean, I disagree with the pick at first. I didn't love it. I thought they were better off going after an edge rusher or somebody like that, as opposed to bringing in Michael Penix. But I think that's also because both of us, or at least me, you did as well. I forget though. Did you like the Penix pick or?
I did not agree with it.
Yeah,
I understood it, but I didn't
neither
agree
of
with
us. Yeah, both of us. I think we also both like Kirk a lot, where we thought that Penix might never see the field until 2 to 3 years potentially. And sure enough, he'll see the field here. And yeah, it's a soft landing spot for him. I think if there was a game to do it, it would be this game. I think you could also make the case they could have did it last week against the Raiders. But even then, though, the Raiders are competitive on the road. Could have been a tougher game for a rookie. The Giants are just so bad. This has got to be a game where Penix goes out there and has a big day. The accuracy, of course, was something we all saw out of college, which was obviously lethal. So we'll see kind of how that looks today in the NFL game in a way, I guess. The accuracy and stuff like that. But it's a big opportunity for him. This is it. Like the Falcons will look like geniuses if this somehow works out and they make a run at the playoffs and Penix looks great here over the next 3 games. They'll look like absolute geniuses of picking up Kirk and Penix really just being the plan for if Kirk doesn't work out, he's our guy. So I guess this is why you draft a quarterback, right? Or draft a quarterback like Penix in that position to, in the later rounds to, have a chance at trying to turn the season around. Do you feel like could be a little too late though? Like they're already 7-7. I think you probably could have made the case after that Chargers game. They probably could have benched Kirk. Not saying that Penix would have went on the road and beat Minnesota, but who knows? You feel it all maybe too late, like even after maybe even during the bye week when they lost 2 games in a row and Kirk was playing like trash and they had that 38-6 loss to the Broncos. You feel like that could have been the time to then flip it over to him?
Yeah, absolutely. I think either after the bye week or second half of that Broncos game, that's when you make the switch. And again, they're in a very tough situation where it's like, can this rookie lead us to the playoffs? And one Tampa mistake. I mean, you gotta remember, Atlanta had the tiebreaker over Tampa. So if they both finish with the same record some way, somehow, Atlanta they win the division, and that playoff spot is there. So it's so tough. Does this rookie lead us, or do we call it a quit because we don't see Tampa falling off? But you got to worry about the Atlanta Falcons. You can't worry about what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers watch. Well, what they do. It's hard to not watch the scoreboard, kind of knowing how close things are and what you kind of need to fall into place for you to succeed. But it's definitely too late. After that second loss going into the bye week, Penix should have had, that whole entire week of practice, no game, and then the whole entire week leading up to the next game to prepare and just learn everything he could from Kirk in that 2-week span of practice time. So now it's kind of like, all right, well, let me go out there. Let's throw him out there. Let's see what he gives us. And I know Kirk doesn't come off as that guy, but we've seen it with, was it Ryan Tannehill when they Tennessee drafted Malik Willis, where it's like, I'm not mentoring this guy. Like, that's not my job. That could be a Kirk Cousins where he was like, to hell with Michael Penix. He just took my job. Why do I need to go out there and show him you're a pro? I'm a pro. Go be a pro. So it's very tough situation. I think they handled it too late. I'm not going to say they mishandle it, just too late of the timing, but we're going to see what he does today. So I'm kind of on track with you where the Giants, again, the Giants is a way to do it. I think we should see a heavy dosage of Bijan, heavy dosage of some quick passes to like Ray McLeod, Darnell Mooney, those type of things to build his confidence.
Yep.
And hopefully he has Kirk, having his back today through all the good and all the bad. But if he goes out there and they do make a run at the playoffs, even if they don't win the first round, but they go out there and they look competitive, we just don't know ball, and they obviously are some geniuses.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to put it. Like, this is for the Falcons. This is like two things they're kind of doing here. Number one is they're still trying to create a spark to get to the playoffs, but then there is also that part of it where they're looking to see what they have for the future. And if they don't make the playoffs, but Penix looks good, that's at least a positive you can take into next year. And the best case scenario is Penix looks good and they make the playoffs, and then you've got kind of two birds, or you kill two birds in a way with one stone, where you make the playoffs and then also get to the or see a lot of good things out of Penix as well. But yeah, it's a good opportunity for him, and this is a big week for him in terms of like building up his confidence, because then you got to go on the road in Washington next week for Sunday Night Football. So this has got to be like, get the jitters out, soft landing spot against this Giants team, get the win, and then next week is the real test on the road in Washington, where really the rest of the way it's must wins here for Atlanta, essentially. Same thing for Tampa as well. Like, just win out and let the chips fall where they may, and then you got Carolina to close out the year, which should be a winnable game. But here we are again, though, talking about the NFC South being wide open, yet it's an 8-6 and a 7-7 team fighting for it. It's just crazy every year with this division. All right. Did you want to get to game picks?
Yeah, the big week for the both of us. We're both 24-20. I know when you asked me yesterday about my picks, my comparison was the December Miami Dolphins. And I mean, from anyone who's been keeping up with us throughout this season, I was 9-3 at a point in the season. I am now 24-20. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe before I make these picks and I go look at the spread and obviously those type of things, I probably should go load up Madden, look at the offensive, look at the offense, look at the defense, look at the special teams from each team, and then make my picks that way. Maybe it's my fault. Maybe I'm the problem. Maybe Woody Johnson's on to something. And that is why I have completely turned into the Dolphins in cold weather, because something I'm not doing right.
Yeah. Both 24-21. Big week here. You did get your pick right yesterday, though. You did not take the Steelers, which was smart. I did, and that was not smart. So 24-21, I guess I'll just say that. I already picked the Steelers yesterday. They lost, so that pick didn't hit. So technically 24-22. But either way, I guess since I only have two picks, did you want me to begin?
Oh, yeah. Sure, why not?
All right. All right, so two picks here to make. Steelers yesterday +7. Of course, today, I'll be honest, these slate of games are not great for picking purposes. There's some rough ones today for sure. I was originally going to go Niners +2.5 or +1, actually, is what I wrote down. But now it's Niners. Now it's Miami -2.5, or San Francisco -2.5. So I guess I'll just go Dolphins. Just give me the Dolphins +2.5. I'm going to pick that game either way. Don't love that pick, but I'll go Miami 2.5. I think they find a way to win. They're at home in a way, I guess, sort of keep their slim playoff hopes alive for another week, I guess. Not that they're really alive at all, but you get the point. Give me Dolphins +2.5. And then this next game, I'm kind of debating between a couple. I don't know where I want to go. Do I believe Carolina at home can keep it close against Arizona? Maybe. Not touching the New England Buffalo game. Not touching the Bears-Lions game, not doing that. Definitely not doing this Giants-Falcons game, although a lot of people do think the Giants will keep it close. I'm not. That's just a weird game, so I'm not going to do it. Browns Bengals is interesting because it's a big spread. DTR against that Bengals secondary. Does he maybe have some success? Maybe. I'm going to go an interesting one here. This might be really bad. It might not work just because Vegas has been competitive, but I'm going to go Jaguars plus 2.5 against the Raiders. That's probably not going to hit, but I'm going to go with it. I liked what I saw from the Jaguars last week. I did. Watching that game against the Jets, Mac Jones actually looked decent. So give me the Jaguars plus 2.5. The Raiders are, even though they're competitive, they're just so bad. I think O'Connell's playing again. I mean, they've got a different quarterback playing every single week. Give me the Raiders, or give me the Jaguars plus 2.5.
All right. Well, I don't think I'm catching up much ground this week. So originally, I don't know, I read it as Rams were 3-point underdogs. So I had Rams plus 3.
Mhm.
Well, but it's actually the Rams are favorites. So I'm not taking the Jets ever again. So I had to take that off. So we both have Jags and Dolphins plus 2.5. That was the one I just changed it to. Rams to Jags. So we're, 2 games we kind of agree on. I'm right with the same with you. Not even going to reiterate with the Raiders, Dolphins, kind of the same thing. I just don't trust the 49ers. If I'm correct, I think Brick Johnson is playing running back for the Niners today because they're on like their 8th running back. So Dolphins plus 2.5 and think they bounce back. So the one game that's going to separate us for this week, I'm going to go Panthers plus 5.5. They have been playing some great ball, especially at home. This Cardinals team is very unpredictable. You never know what you're going to get from them. Only thing that concerns me with the Panthers is their defense is terrible. So is James Conner going to have a great game, or is their defense going to kind of buckle down? Guess we'll see when they play. So give me Panthers plus 5.5, and not very confident this week. I'm kind of with you with these picks were very awful, but I guess we'll see over the course of the day.
Yeah, 100%. It's crazy. We're in week 16, and our picks are Jaguars, Dolphins, Panthers, 3 teams that are not even in it. Steelers, obviously, as well, but that didn't hit. So that Panthers game is going to mean a lot. It's going to mean a lot. That's going to be the difference between you gaining ground or both of us staying the same record. Yeah. So that's the big one. Any closing thoughts?
Try to enjoy this Sunday, I guess. I mean, again, it's smaller slated games today with 3 games already being played, but that is all, I guess. And sorry if you have the Jets to watch. Sorry about Sunday night, but for your case, sorry that you have the Jets to watch this early afternoon.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry for myself. In a way. Been a rough year. I just hope today it's entertaining. I think it should be. I think it should be a high-scoring game. Jets are without Quinnen Williams. They're without Michael Carter on D, so they're missing a couple pieces. Defense hasn't been good all year anyway. Defensive line's been terrible all year anyway, so I think you're looking at a potential big Kyron Williams day. I think you're looking at a high-score game. I think it's going to be I think my official prediction was like 31-23. I think we're going to get a high-scoring game. So at least if it's high-scoring, this point in the season, I just want to see scoring in these games. If the Jets put up points, even if they lose at this point, it's like they're competitive. It is what it is. It's where we're at. Just counting down the days in a lost season.
Well, if you're curious, still kind of debate. I mean, I'm probably not gonna go, but there's this little spark of interest in me that wants to go watch your future quarterback on the 28th in the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Oh,
right here in my backyard of Orlando. So kind of want to see Miami, so probably can give you some hope. Like I said, probably not going, but there's a spark of interest that wants to see Cam Ward. But
Little Cam Ward action.
Yeah,
Cam Ward's going to end up in New York
personal.
somewhere, I think. Probably the Giants, if I had to guess.
Well, if it is the Jets, I think his NCAA rating is like
it's good enough.
95 or something. So, Brick, if you are watching this, Cam Ward is your guy.
Yes, Brick Johnson. Brick Johnson, don't feel free to just tell your dad to sell the team. All right, feel free. You heard it here first. Anyway, that'll do it. Have a happy holidays to all the viewers. We will see you next week, and talk to you soon. Enjoy the Sunday slate.